We be fussing, we be screaming, but you the one I wanna lay beside this evening. I'm gonna come back even when I'm leaving. You give good love and I receive it. When you feeling down, I'ma sing to you. That ring on your finger got a ring to it. That's that real love, God-fearing love. It may not be how we dreamed it,
because I know I had
but it's still
requirements,
love.
and you didn't necessarily meet some of them, which I had to go back and negotiate with myself. But my question to you is, you didn't know I had them? I did. One of my requirements was no children, but I was also 28 going on 29, and I knew the likelihood of somebody not having any kids was going to be slim to none. And so that then became a negotiable. But tell me about relationship requirements for me. Did you have any?
So just so y'all know, we getting ready to tap into these relationship requirements. So just hang on. But to be honest, this whole relationship requirement piece was something that I didn't necessarily have relationship requirements going in.
Okay.
Because my situation was a little different, and I wasn't in the market for a relationship during that time.
So you're saying because of the situation you were in, you didn't really have anything that you were air quote looking for because you weren't looking for anybody.
And I'm not saying that's the right way to approach it.
Right.
But I'm just saying that's just for me. I didn't really have any relationship requirements.
Okay.
I knew I didn't want to marry anybody that I thought wasn't attractive. So
And
I
didn't
think,
love the Lord.
Yeah, I think so. Like when the time would have been that I would have been looking for that.
Yeah.
Two things for sure. She would have had to have been attractive, and she'd have had to have been in a relationship with the Lord Jesus.
Well, I hit both of those.
You know what I mean?
The park.
And so those two things I knew. But other things I hadn't really thought about because I was really hyper-focused on trying to get myself together.
Right.
And so I didn't really put any time, effort, or energy into thinking about what another person had to have. I knew what I wanted to have.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question then. At what point during us dating or courting each other did you start saying, oh, snap, she's starting to fit these? Because what could I have fit if there wasn't a requirement?
I don't even have an answer to that. I really
So you
don't even know.
don't remember when it was like, man, I could marry her, and then maybe based off of that, you were maybe subconsciously lining some things up as to why you would have came to the conclusion of I can marry her.
I think probably subconsciously some of the things would have been there needed to be a level of independence there.
Okay.
I think this was subconscious stuff.
Yeah.
There needed to be a level of independence. I think there needed to be a level of security. So I never really wanted to be with a woman that placed a lot of pressure on me to make them feel a certain way.
Which is probably why independence was important.
Yeah. And so, because I think that's a lot of pressure on a man for the woman to, have an expectation that it's your job
to make me happy,
to make her happy.
Yeah.
I think, like the man is supposed to definitely play a part in that, but I don't think it should be his total responsibility. And so for me, I think I needed a woman to be emotionally independent.
So there were some things then that were subconsciously attractive to you. So without you having a list or without you verbally saying this is what I'm looking for in a woman, your brain or your personality, you as a man, you knew what it was that you wanted without necessarily writing it out and going on the hunt for that specific thing.
Yeah, I probably didn't necessarily have language for it.
Yeah.
I knew what would vibe with me.
With you.
I knew what would be comfortable for me.
And so I think that is the issue now in 2023 when it comes to this thing called relationships, when it comes to partnerships, dating, all of the stuff. I think that people are not like you and they're not like me. And they're either putting these requirements are very structured and very strict, or they're doing the complete opposite and they're just kind of doing whatever without subconsciously making notes.
I think what's happening is I think, just if I could be honest, I think exposure is not always playing the best role
What's exposure? What do you mean?
when it comes to these requirements that people are developing.
What are they exposed to?
I think they're exposed to, I think social media is playing a tremendous role in how people are coming up with these requirements as they go into relationships.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, it's the requirements that some people have for their future mate are really incongruent with who they are as a person.
Oh,
And I think there's a danger zone when the requirement that you have is not consistent with who you are. And
it's
think,
unfair.
Yeah, and I think to be honest, I think a lot of that happens. Or on the flip side, I think that kind of like my situation, when people have a requirement or something or qualities that will vibe for them, I don't think a lot of men are really the greatest at expressing themselves.
Like you said, putting language to that.
And I think the inability to express yourself, what it does is it leaves interpretation up to a person.
Yeah.
When you don't have the ability to express yourself, somebody can interpret your life, your situation, whatever, however they want, because you couldn't express it. And I think that's what happens in a lot of instances. So I think it's one of the two. But I think this incongruency piece, I think, is critical. I like that word,
incongruency.
It's not fair to have an expectation that you're not bringing to the table.
So give me so let's give an example of that. Because you were in a situation when you and I first met, and so financially we were not in the same boat.
No.
But you were employed.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is, as we're talking about relationship requirements and really diving into, I think, like the meat and potatoes of it, this is where I see the most issues when it comes to exposure. I love what you said. Now you have these women who are putting this heavy standard on money and employment when it comes to men, and how much money a man has to have to be in a relationship with this said woman, but she is not matching that at all. Her requirement is he needs to be 100, 150,000. Doesn't say 6-figure earner, but she's still doing, work from home work, making $20 an hour. And so the biggest thing that I see, and this is for men and women, I see men who are not even requiring this of a woman, requiring it of themselves, saying that I need to be financially here before I enter into a relationship. And then I see women saying a man needs to be here before I get in a relationship with him. So now it's weird to me, because I think about you and I. Money for me, I made more money than you, but you were employed. You weren't a bum. You weren't, you know what I mean? You had a job. And you went to work every day. And so that really didn't matter to me. Now, though, with exposure, if I was single, what could I be influenced by other women's standards of finances? And I believe men are also being influenced by other men and almost taking on, like, you need to make, this amount of money before you get into a relationship.
I think, man, honestly, I think whatever drives the relationship will probably kind of dictate what the requirements are.
Okay.
So if perception is what drives the relationship, then the requirements will be in alignment with how you want to be perceived. And I think, unfortunately, that's playing a major role in what's happening. So people are looking on social media, looking at all of these different things that they're able to be exposed to now. And so because how you're perceived in the eyes of people is tremendously important to a lot of people.
It is.
They start developing requirements that would cause them to be viewed in a certain light in the eyes of people.
Yeah.
But I think if compatibility is the driving factor, in the requirements that you
It's
develop.
such a loaded word though, babe. Like, okay, when you say you need to be making sure you're compatible with somebody,
Yeah.
but couldn't finances be in that boat of compatibility?
Of course. So, of course, compatibility has different levels, different angles.
Yeah.
But I think this is where it comes down to really like finding out who you are. You don't know what's compatible with you until you first find out who you are. If you don't really know who you are, what you like, what drives you, at the end of the day, when all of the glitz and the glamour is gone, if you don't know who you are, then you won't be able to pick something that's compatible.
But we're always evolving and we're always changing. So how can you get a good bead on who you are?
You can't pick somebody based on who you might be 10 years from now. You got to
Right.
get somebody based upon your core beliefs,
So
your core values.
So are you saying that a woman or a man has no business requiring a six-figure earner if that's
No.
where they're not at?
No, what I'm saying is your core beliefs,
Okay.
who you are at your core, I think is one of the things that you utilize in order to find out who's compatible with you.
So if I'm lazy, I don't have no business wanting, desiring, or making that part of my requirement for a relationship for a very ambitious man.
It depends on why. If you want somebody that's ambitious that can be a support for your laziness, then no. But if you want somebody that's ambitious that's going to motivate you and inspire you to become ambitious, then yes. And guess what? Only you know that.
People are not honest with themselves, which is
Correct.
why we are in the
Correct.
situation that we're in. I've seen it work against it too. I've seen two very ambitious people get together and somebody got to be at home. You know what I mean? So I understand, but people also evolve. And so I like what you said. No, are you looking for somebody ambitious in order to I don't know,
So you can keep
so
being
you can
lazy.
keep being lazy, but opposites attract. And I feel like you have that a lot. You have
Well, here's the deal. That it needs to be communicated then.
when does that need to be communicated?
Check
Date
out,
2?
Check out, fam. I really don't like doing too much. I like chilling at the crib. I really don't like really doing a whole lot of labor or anything like that. I got some other things that I can bring to the
And
table.
that's not attractive. I can tell you that right now.
But as far as you looking for me to be a doer, fam,
That's not
that probably ain't gonna happen. But now, see what I'm saying? People aren't honest, and so you
because
come in,
it's not attractive.
well, then you need to be attractive. Then you need to change some things about yourself if you want to be attractive out here,
Yeah.
or else keep it real. Like, look, I ain't worked in really like 7 years. I've been just doing little odds and ends stuff. Working ain't for me. Keep it real with yourself. Don't nobody like to keep it real with themselves. They like to pretend like they're ambitious, but they ain't really ambitious for real. They just pretending. Ambition is known by the fruit that it bears.
My
You ain't
Lord.
ambitious. You just out here think you ambitious. You ain't talking about nothing. And so if you ain't talking about nothing, you either need to do a couple of things. You need to get with somebody and let them know, hey, I ain't talking about nothing.
See, but the problem is,
Or you need to become talking about something so that you can be attractive.
babe, I get it, but the problem is that what you just said, self-perception is dangerous. So the self-perception of the person that just really ain't talking about nothing is that they are just an ambitious individual. They go seek out ambitious people because their self-perception is, I'm ambitious too.
Yeah. Well, they need to get some people in their lives that's able to tell them the truth. Like, hey, you're not ambitious. The idea of being ambitious is attractive to you.
And see, this is how I know this is true, because when American Idol was hot, you had the people who would go out and they would sing and they would be terrible. And the first thing I would ask is, where are their friends
that would tell them
you cannot sing.
Oh, you got to understand. See, some people have different, views on what friendship is. To some people, a person's feelings is most important. So if I tell them that what they're presenting is horrible, it's going to hurt their feelings. So in their opinion, they believe by not saying anything,
That they're being
a
friend.
good friend.
And actually, it's being a terrible friend.
It could be being a terrible friend.
I was reading this thing. This was years ago, and it said that if you can tell a person that they have a booger in their nose, this is like, I read this somewhere. Basically, that it was people that are close to people won't even tell them they have something in their nose.
Right.
And that was a huge part of friendship, whatever it was, is hey, you got a booger in your nose. Why was it so embarrassing? And they're talking about people who are in relationship with each other, were letting the other person walk around with something in their nose.
Yeah. And it's difficult for some people to be that honest and that transparent with other people, to give them that kind of truth. You know what I'm saying? But it's a thing.
You have something in your nose. How is that embarrassing? It's worse for you walking out in the world and now a stranger.
Well, I think that becomes, they're more so thinking about how it's making them feel to tell them that than it is helping the person be better.
And so therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
With
people are selfish when they don't tell people the real. A lot of it is selfishness.
There it is.
It's not that I heard you singing and I really think you're doing a good job. It's no, I heard you singing. I think it's horrible. But I don't want to get over myself to tell you that, because I'm feeling it's an awkward situation. And so I don't want to deal with that awkward situation. So I just won't tell you the truth in order to
correct.
Alleviate me having to deal with that situation. Which I feel like is more important in that moment than helping you out.
Which is why the fake ambitious person they're selfish. I really believe, and I just believe it. I believe people that are lazy know they're lazy. I believe people who know that they're not really entrepreneurs, they just kind of like doing odd jobs, they know that. I believe people who are overweight know they're overweight. I believe people who procrastinate know they procrastinate. I don't believe that people are oblivious to their shortcomings.
So then how do you do that then if you're a person's friend and you believe they know that?
You tell them
if you believe they already know that, then they already know. So what's the use of you telling them?
Because we're children. We had a good friend of ours tell us yesterday that all ministry is children's ministry. We're children, and we have to hear the same thing more than one time.
Yeah.
And clearly, you don't believe it.
Well,
or
I don't. Yeah, I think different than you.
No.
And so we're going to circle back to what we're talking about. But here's what I found. I found that the moment you come against a way that a person perceives themselves,
yes,
or views themselves,
public enemy number one.
You could potentially become public enemy number one.
100%.
And what they'll do is they'll label you as a hater. They'll label you as, somebody that's not for them, or whatever the case may be. There's a potential that you could become an enemy, or you could become despised, or you could become labeled as a hater. So you got to be mindful of how you even approach someone by letting them know, hey, this here that you're producing is not good, man.
I think you only have to do that, man, and be honest with you. Jesus had 12, but he had 3. And I feel like it's the same way in your friendship circles. I have 3 women, 4, that I can be very honest with them about their stuff.
Yeah.
And they can be very honest with me about my stuff. And
what about everybody else?
Nah. See,
what about people that are coming to you and asking you honest questions? Like, hey, is this good? Or, hey, I was thinking about doing this. One of my greatest responses that I've developed over the years? because I found myself in situations to where I was brutally honest as it pertained to my opinion about a situation, but my opinion was different than how the individual saw it. Mm-hmm. And then I became enemy number one. Mm-hmm. So in order to alleviate that, you know what I figured out? One of the best responses?
What?
How can I support you in that?
And see, I get it.
How can I support you in that?
You're playing it very safe because I feel like you were giving your opinion to probably people who are not your 3. And I think that you probably do have people in your life that you could say, man, that
of course
that just doesn't.
But not everybody.
And so again, I think the rest of them, I'm not probably going to ever say to anybody, how can I support you in that? Because I may not want to support them in the way that they're going to answer me. They may say, yeah, man, I need you to help me pass out these flyers.
And I might tell them no. Just because I asked them how they want me to support them don't mean I'm going to do that. I might tell them no.
So then why ask?
And that might be another opportunity to help them see the error of their ways.
So going back to then the requirements when we're talking about relationships.
Yeah.
So this clearly is not an intimate relationship thing. This is relationships across the board. There's requirements for intimate relationships. There's a requirement for friendships. There's a requirement for partnerships when it comes to business and stuff.
But there is. But we were talking about straight, intimate, potential marriage, dating,
and
that
when
type
it comes
of stuff.
to the requirements, I think my biggest beef, my biggest issue right now, and I think
you're mad at
answered it.
women.
I am.
You're upset with women.
And the reason why I'm upset with women, though, is because we so quick to dog men out. If imagine men right now in 2023, December of 23, imagine if a man got on social media and was like, she can't get with me unless she making six figures.
Oh, it's men that do that. It's men that have that.
But what I'm saying is that when they do it, they are dog, drag, yada, yada, yada. But women, it now becomes like this,
but
I don't know.
Let me tell you how men do it, though. I think men do it in different ways. So, you were familiar with, what was his name?
Kevin Samuels.
Kevin Samuels,
Yeah.
and men who have that type of viewpoint, high value men, high value women,
Yeah.
things along those lines. And so whereas a man, what would have been deemed, according to them, as a high value man, might not have came into the equation and said, she need to be making six figures.
No, he just won't date her.
But he might have said she need to be doing some more domesticated things.
And I want to talk about money.
You want to talk about money?
Because that seems to be right now it's the driving force. It's disgusting to me because money can be made all the time and it can be lost all the time.
So you're talking about a woman who ain't
I'm
making no money.
talking about a chick that works
that ain't
from
making no
home,
money,
that's
and then-
making $18.75 an hour,
and to have the audacity to require a man that she's going to date to be bringing home $150,000 a year.
or to be giving her a bunch of bread. Where does this come from? Is it songs? Is it hip hop culture? Like who flipped the switch in? Because there was a trend. And I believe I fell in that trend. There was an independent woman trend. Destiny's Child sung about it. It was like this independent woman trend.
She didn't need his stuff.
She didn't need no money. And so these independent women then went on to be doctors, attorneys, real estate agents, business gurus,
And they got
entrepreneurs.
lonely.
And then they got lonely. And it was really hard for us as alpha women to find men because men don't necessarily like women who aren't submissive or women they can't naturally provide for because that's y'all's wiring.
Just women who don't have the ability to speak to the masculinity of a man.
And we talked about
regardless
this
of what
before in another
her
episode.
profession is.
Right. And so with men being the provider, if I meet a chick who's a boss chick who's making six figures, how, which I think is an esteem issue because you was a boss and I made six figures and you didn't, and that didn't matter to you. It's kind of like shorter guys dating taller women. Like it didn't matter
because it doesn't. The profession, the career is not what matters. It's not what's intimidating to a man.
What is?
It's the inability of a woman to speak, for her femininity to speak to his masculinity.
So you're saying
That's
that
the
money,
issue.
but part of masculinity is provision, is you guys being providers. So you have, again, going back to the trend. And so then somehow, I think the independent women, or maybe the generation under them, saw them being lonely and not married. And so it flipped. And so now it's the other extreme. Now it's, if you want my phone number, send me a Cash App. If you want to date me, we have to go eat at this type of restaurant, the whole Cheesecake Factory.
What it is
thing.
it's another angle for women to continue to be lonely. Because
100%.
Because if you required all of it, if you was
Sheesh.
independent and all that, and then you got to a point to where you realized you were lonely, but now you got, all of these quote unquote requirements in order to be in relationship, it's just another opportunity for women to continue to be lonely.
And men to continue to do what?
Because if you're saying, because that's going to turn a lot of men off. Well,
Oh.
you need to have $150,000. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. Now, there are plenty of men who are doing that, who will date women. But what I found out is it seems like women outnumber men.
They do.
And so if that's be the case, then what about all of the other women who have all of these requirements, but you got a man that's making, $92,000 a year, got a good job, good dude, not perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But a good dude all around.
Yeah.
And but you got $150,000 requirement, that he needs to be bringing to the table, but he's not bringing that to the table. You're going to be lonely, because what another thing would happen is this. If those external materialistic things become the requirement, what'll happen is you'll settle for a nigga that you ain't compatible with because he got $150,000 a year job.
And we've entered into...
That's what'll happen. And so financially, he'll be meeting the requirements, but that nigga ain't loving you right.
And we've entered into it.
You know what I'm saying? He's not loving you right. He's not taking care of you emotionally. He's not massaging your mind. He's not making love to your mind. He's not making you feel like a woman. And he's not doing those things. But, he pulling up in the Rari, and he got $150,000, $250,000 a year job. Now you're miserable. But guess what? Because perception was what drove you to develop your requirements, going back to what I said earlier.
Yeah.
You're perceived like it's all good because you can go on social media and post a pic of you hopping out of the Rari.
Well, it's the same thing with men. I think what has happened now, because this new agenda has been pushed about finances. I mean, and this is something that's always, for me, it's always been. I've never... it's more prominent. These young men now, I was visiting a friend of mine. She's very young. She's probably, 23, 24 years old. A young man had came to visit her when I was there. He's also the same age, employed, went to college, no children, nice looking young man. I would deem him successful. So I asked him, what did he want to date her? And you want to know what his response was?
What?
I'm not financially ready to date. I said, what does that mean?
Well, so here's what I would say. It don't necessarily mean he's trying to come up to a standard that has been set by a woman.
Oh, no, but it's a standard that society has set.
Maybe not. Maybe he could have goals.
Maybe
he could have goals, and maybe he could be like, you know what? I want to, have a couple of properties under my belt.
See what I'm saying?
I want to have a little bit of money
saved.
Okay,
let me finish. That, though... There's no telling of when that happens. And the problem now is that you have men who are driven and have always been driven by money, provision, and being able to provide. What he said to me was, I said, what does that mean? He says, I want to be able to financially take care of whoever I'm dating, and she's probably going to end up being my wife and my children. And I'm like...
That sounds like a good young man
to
me.
It is. And then he started talking about properties, and I said, well, how long is that going to take? And he was like, I don't know. So now you have this young man who's 24 who could probably be single until he's 34 because he's trying to obtain this level of financial independence and security on his own, totally missing that millionaires and wealth are created by marriage.
Oh, so let's be clear. He's still going to be married. He's allowed to have goals. And
he said he didn't want to get married until he could get to that place.
Maybe he's got a plan to get there. And so I feel like I feel like more people should be doing that. Because what happened is you got cats that's running around here just super spreaders, dropping babies everywhere, but don't have a plan for life, and then end up getting pressured into marriage potentially at 26.
Yeah.
And truth be told, he really wasn't ready to be married.
Yeah.
He just had a situation.
But you don't see that being that being problematic where you have a young woman who is as successful as him and he doesn't want that. It's like some of the men, I'm not going to say all men, some or most men, they want to be superior when it comes to money, finances, and being able to bring into the home. And when they're not, they feel as though they're not equipped or adequate enough to be in a relationship or married.
I mean, that could potentially be the case. But I think maybe superior might not necessarily be the word. Maybe secure is the word.
Yeah, I don't mean superior as a dogmatic term, but secure, yeah.
If I'm secure in the fact that I can do what it is that I set my goal to do.
Yeah.
Irregardless of how much money you bring to the table.
Yeah.
I'm able to do this. Your money is just extra.
Yeah.
It's security. You know what I'm saying? Not superiority. I'm able to do that. I'm able to provide. Irregardless of how much money you make, I'm able to provide. I think where the insecurity comes in is when you're unable to provide. But we'll tap into that in a whole nother situation.
Unable to provide.
Yeah, unable to provide. Y'all, look, this whole relationship requirement piece, we're going to do part 2. Make sure y'all tap in because I think we got some more stuff to uncover and unravel. In the meantime, where should they go to tap in with us?
They should always be on YouTube. I hope you're watching this on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, Make Marriage Great Again podcast. Spread the word. Go ahead and go on Instagram. It is
MMGA
podcast on IG, and on Facebook. On Facebook, it is
Make
Marriage Great Again podcast. Share all of the clips. I think this season has been unbelievable thus far, and I cannot wait to see what's coming next. Go subscribe.
Let's get it.
Peace.